Friends, at this time we are going to begin the funeral services for Esther Good. If you have a cell phone or a pager, I would ask for you to please take a moment to turn it off or place it in the silent mode. And officiating today's services will be Cantor Howard Friedland. As we begin our service today, the cantor will lead the family in the ancient tradition of Kriya.
Welcome, everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim, peace, and welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming here. It means a great deal to have your presence here, whether you're here in person or here remotely. It's a great act to perform, to come and to comfort the mourners and to have your presence known. So thank you for being here, all of you. As Jeremy said, we start with the ceremony of Kriya, of tearing or rending. It is said that when our ancestor Jacob heard of the supposed news of his son's Joseph's death, he was so overcome with grief that he tore his garment. And so today we tear either a piece of a dress or a shirt or a coat. Today we tear a ribbon. And it's customary to wear it for the next 7 days of Shiva, the first initial part of mourning. Some wear it for Shloshim, the first 30 days, some wear it beyond. It's a sign to all who come in contact with you that your heart is broken. And God willing, in the days and weeks and months to come, that tear begins to heal as you emerge back into life. So I ask those of you who are wearing a ribbon, Leslie, Michelle, Perry, and Neil, to please stand as you are able. And you say these words, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, the true judge. Adonai natan, Adonai lakach, v'hi shem Adonai mevorach. God is given, God is taken away. Blessed be God's name. It may seem counterintuitive to praise God when you're so heartbroken in a moment like this. But we do it to acknowledge the all of life, that nothing exists without contrast, and all the love and life and good that was Esther's life comes to an end on this planet. But she lives on, as we say in our tradition, in the memory of those who were here and who succeed here. And that way her life will return. That's why I wish you all love and strength in the months to come. Please be seated. And so we've come together as family and as community to express our sacred sorrow. We've come together to draw strength from one another and from the ultimate source of all strength. We've come together to affirm comfort and blessing in the face of deepest loss. We have come together to bid farewell to Esther Good. We share a common prayer that the source of healing sustain those of you who grieve. May those wounded be lost be blessed with love and compassion. We pray that the journey that lies ahead lead from darkness to light. As it is written, thus says the source of hope, I will respond to your yearning. When you call out in the night, I will answer. I will be with you even in the darkest of places. I will give you strength. I will nourish you, and you shall know protection beneath the shelter of my wings. And we extend our condolences to Esther's family, to her children, Leslie, Neil and Sherry, to Perry, Michelle and Nick, to her grandchildren, Ross and Danielle, to Sean, Trent, and Leah, to her great-grandchildren, Eli and Maya. She was really blessed to have such a family, and all of you were blessed to have her. And condolences to all of you who are here, whether you're related by blood or not. Grief knows no bounds of blood, and when you're sad at the loss of someone you loved, I acknowledge your grief as well. We pray for wholeness and compassion in the days to come, and let us say, Amen. the 23rd Psalm. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, Vinot dasher yarbitzeni, al menuchot, yenachaleni. Nafshi yishovev, Yancheni v'maglet tzedek, Yancheni v'maglet tzedek, L'man shemo. Kom ki elech beget salmavet, Lo hirara ki ata imadi, Shivtecha umishantecha, Hema yenachamuni. Baruch lifanai, Shulchan neged tzorerai, Dishanta Hashem en Rashi, Kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdifuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti bevet Adonai le'orech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar, Adonai roi lo echsar. Together, let's read the translation of the 23rd Psalm found on the inside of your pamphlets. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 121. Esai nai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. My eyes look into the void. From where will my help come? My help comes from my very source, the fashioner of order and of harmony. Your guardian will catch you when you slip. Your shelter will protect you while you sleep. Your night will not last forever, for your protector will surely bring back the sun in the morning. Your source will watch over you at all times. And as you came into this world, swaddled in loving embrace, so shall you leave. From Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes. Dor holech v'dor ba, v'ha'aretz l'olam modet. V'zarach ha'shemesh u'v'ha'shemesh, ve'el mikomo shoef, zoreachu sham. הולך אל דרום, וסובב אל צפון, סובב, סובב הולך הרוח, וסביבותיו שב הרוח. כל הנחלים הולכים אל הים, והים איננו מלא אל מקום שהנחלים הולכים שם, הם שבים ללכת. A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets and glides back to where it rises again. Southward blowing, turning northward, ever turning, blows the wind. On its rounds, the wind returns. All streams flow into the sea, but the sea is never full. To the place from which they flow, there they flow back again. And finally this, birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back, we pray, to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage. And as we make that sacred pilgrimage of life, going from stage to stage, we each write our own Torah scroll. To the Jewish people, the Torah, the scroll we read 3 times a week, is our sacred book, and it is some parts history, some parts myth, some parts borrowed from other cultures. But we've never veered from the words that are written and the words that were passed on originally. It's a curious thing to me. Even the most progressive Jews read the Torah in the words in which it was passed down. We are told never to add to it nor to subtract from it. From the best characters in Torah, we learn how to live a meritorious life. And from the worst characters in the Torah, we learn how not to live our lives. And it would not be surprising that the best and the worst characters are often found in the same person. As it is in life, we are imperfect beings trying to do the best that we can. And we're trying to answer those universal questions. How did we get here? What is our job here on earth? What do we leave to those who succeed us? And where do we go once we leave here? And some of those questions we can answer, some we cannot. But the Torah, for those of us who are Jews, serves as a foundation, a place from which to start trying to answer those questions. And I believe everybody writes their own Torah scroll, and we learn from everyone's life. We certainly learn from Esther's life, as we'll learn today. It would be enough to come here and to honor Esther and her life, but so much better to, when we leave these doors, having learned about her life and having learned ways in which we can put those things that really worked for her as a person, as a human being, and use them in our own lives to enrich us and to enrich those around us. And so it is today we'll hear about Esther's Torah. We'll hear first from her son Perry.
First, thank you all for being here to celebrate my mom's life. If I cry, I cry. I hope I don't go into the ugly cry. But I'll try not to, because I love you all. My mom was smart, funny, honest, loud, and above all, kind. Her tagline to me was always, "Honey, we're all doing the best we can." She loved being a wife, a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. She loved to cook. She was an amazing cook. She did every single holiday up until about 3 years ago or so, birthdays, Monday night dinners, and a Monday night dinner at our house would consist of anything you wanted, being you could have chicken, steak, but we also usually started the dinners with pizza and Chinese appetizers. And from there, usually celebrating somebody's birthday, coincidentally right next door is Deerfield Bakery. We usually picked up a banana cake. But she was amazing. She loved painting. She was an amazing and talented artist, but very modest and didn't take compliments very well. She loved to shop, buy gifts, mail checks for everybody's birthdays, holidays. She was literally trying to buy me a birthday gift a few years ago, but she couldn't get to the store, so sorry. So she asked me to pick something out so she could reimburse me for a shirt. A Robert Graham, Crazy Busy. The louder, the busier. I'm like, Mom, I don't need any more shirts, but thank you. She still tried to write checks. One of my favorite memories, was after college, I decided I think I should move to LA, and I needed to get my Toyota Celica out there. So my mom decided she'd road trip with me to drive the car out there, which was she didn't want me to go, but she was, of course, going to help me go. So me and my mom started our journey out to LA. She was a total lead foot, not the best driver, especially at the end, but that's for other stories. But the last day or two, because this trip ended up taking much longer, we would literally stop like every 2 or 3 hours to eat because we were so bored. I don't even know if there were cell phones then. I think there were, but we'd call my dad at every at every stop and say, we're good, we're eating, we're laughing, we're shopping. And we made it. We laughed the whole way. You know, you kind of get in a zone of just everything was funny. I loved to make her laugh. When I was back home after LA, I'd be Sunday mornings in the kitchen, sitting with her at the kitchen table, drinking coffee, telling a story that I probably had to clean up to tell her. Kind of cleaning it up. But I would crack her up so hard that she'd have to stand up and run to the kitchen sink to spit out her coffee. And then I knew I did a good job making her laugh. And I did do that a lot, right, Shel? Yeah. I mean, she'd be like, "Not again. Stop making me laugh." Make sure I'm not missing anything. I miss her laugh. She hadn't laughed in a long time. The last few years were very tough, but as her saying went, she did the best she could. With the hospitals, the rehabs, the falls. I can only believe now that after all her struggles that she's at peace, that she's back at the beauty salon in the sky with her standard Friday appointment for hair and nails, that Saturday night she's going to go to dinner with my dad every Saturday night in a new cashmere sweater set from Neiman's that she loved, having a laugh. And as we say goodbye, let's remember her not for her passing, but the beautiful life she lived. Love you all.
Thank you, Perry. It's beautiful. Now we'll hear from Esther's son, Neil.
So I was trying to think of something to express my mother's life. And so I couldn't really think of something, but this came to mind. You ever heard the saying, I can't even think of this saying, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Well, that really doesn't apply to my mother. I think you have to alter it a little bit. People who live in glass houses don't need to throw stones. So first of all, I think this should be a celebration of life. To my sisters, my brothers, my brother, my kids, my grandchildren, my mom lived to 92 years old. The last 6 weeks ago, she fell and broke her back, and she was bedbound in a diaper, and she didn't want to go on. And that was her attitude. About 2 years ago, she fell, broke her pelvis, and she did want to go on. And I asked her, and she said, yes. This time she said, absolutely not. I'm not living in a diaper. So she met my father in the 50s. My mother was going to the University of Illinois, and my father was at Northwestern. She came home for Christmas break her sophomore year. She met my father one date. She came home. She told her mother, I'm not going back to school. I'm marrying this guy. And she did. So I would say that my mother had three kind of passions in life. One of them was cooking, one of them was painting, and the other one was she always wanted to have 4 children. She was the only child, and she wanted 4 kids. So to kind of put everything in perspective, 12 years ago, my father passed away. He died of lung cancer, and periodically people talk about cancer, and I'm going to say a couple things about it just because a couple things have hit me. You may come to the house tonight. I have a friend named Paul Wharton, and he's a miracle. He had it as bad as anybody could get it, and he survived. So I always think of him, and right now Ross and I are involved with a young man who has cancer, and I think about him, and I think, so all of you know, my father got cancer, and I had a fight with him about treatment. He didn't want treatment. He wanted to end it there. And I won that fight. And Michelle got involved, and I think Perry got involved, and he was able to see his first granddaughter because he fought the fight. And so for this young man, Ryan, who is fighting the fight, I hope he ends up with something as good as my father had to see his first grandchild. So my parents were married 58 years before my father passed away. And they never had a fight, never. So I grew up in a house where there was no fighting, no arguing, no disagreeing, which is pretty unusual. That's a long time. So after my father died, I would say my mother was kind of lost. She was never really the same. The first time I think I ever heard my mother yell, Perry and I were, after my father passed away, Perry and I were at the hospital, and my mother yelled at somebody, and we looked at each other and like, what? We couldn't even believe it, So, so he passed away. So going back now to when they got married. So they get married, and they have Leslie, me, Perry, Michelle, and growing up, my mom was, I don't know, maybe it's the standard amazing, but I have memories of her. She's got Michelle in her arm. She's on the phone. She's cooking, and she's getting between Perry and I in a fight. That was my mom. For a long time, we went to Florida every year. And what my mom did when we went to Florida was there were 6 of us in the family. She put all of us to bed, and she packed all 6 of us that night. And we go to Florida for a week, and we drive. And so her main job was keeping us from killing each other, because spending 18 hours in a car with 4 kids under 10 or 9 or 8 or whatever. And so she always kept us going with games and things like that. So I have memories of her doing that. And then, I was in wrestling in junior high, and I was in gymnastics in high school, and never missed a meet. Never missed a carpool, never missed a beat. As I got older, I went to college, we all did obviously, and there are certain things that happen when you're away where all of a sudden they sort of stop being a parent, they sort of become an advisor. And so this story comes to mind because of a couple things. The Chicago Bears and my roommate Vito's here, who changed his flight to go there. So I was probably the only Jewish guy on the floor we lived in the dorm. And one of the guys, we used to call him Sluggo, his father passed away during, I think it was spring break, Christmas break, and did a little bit of drinking back then. So Vito calls me and he says, we got to go to the funeral. I'm like, all right, I'll pick you up. So I go pick up Vito. We meet some guys in DeKalb. We drink a case of beer on the way to Clinton, Iowa, which is where he was from. And we get there, and Sluggo's first name was Danny. And because I'm Jewish, I'm not used to having people with the father and the son the same name. So his mother comes up to me and says, come see Danny. Well, I'd never been to an open casket before, and she wasn't talking about our roommate, Danny. She was talking about her deceased husband. So I turn a corner, and there he is, laying there. And I honestly, I almost got sick right there, because I just never been like that with a body. So, and again, and these guys are, I mean, obviously, Vito's obviously not Jewish, and these guys were all Catholics. And so, after the night was over, I was pretty upset with myself. I felt like I had embarrassed myself. And I kind of went through this whole story with my mom. And my mom said something like, Neil, nobody's even going to know. And that was just how I felt. So when I talk about like her starting to advise me, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it brings to mind, another event. The first time I had cooked, I was single at the time, and I had made dinner. I think it was for Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, and I had cooked for 40 people. And I remember I made a turkey and a brisket. And I was having 40 people there, and all of a sudden everybody's starting to arrive, and I can't figure out, how am I going to get all this food out? And my mom sees me panicking, and she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, Mom, how am I going to do this? And she calmly looks at me and she says, what you do is you have to use all of the things at your disposal. And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, so she showed me that you have to how you simultaneously plan to use a microwave, all the burners on the stove and the oven simultaneously. And that's how you get all the food out, And so at some point she became an advisor. So as we kind of go on in life, I then get married and I have 3 children. And so starting out with, I'll pick up on what Perry said. I mean, so every Monday we had dinner at my mom's. That's when it started, when Ross was born. And what would happen is, because my mom wanted to help, she would go from Morton Grove to Buffalo Grove, pick up the kids, and then take them home and either get them a snack or make chocolate chip cookies, and then cook dinner. And there was always a party going on. But to give you an idea of what it was like to pick up the kids, all 3 kids were at 3 different schools. So she would plan it out. So she'd go to, the first one who got out, the second one who got out, the third one who got out, then she'd go home. So she really, and this Monday night thing became a big deal. First of all, whatever you wanted, she cooked. So you tell her what you wanted. You want filet, you don't want filet. That's what she did. So she was also very involved with my kids while they were growing up. So on top of doing that every Monday, all of my sons were bar mitzvahed, struggling through some of them. But to her, she wanted it to be a memorable event. So what she did was, she convinced my father that they should take every kid to Europe somewhere. So each of my kids got to pick, and if I checked with them, I know Sean went to Italy because the movie The Italian Job had just come out, and that's how he picked that. And I'm pretty sure he took Trent to France, Ross to England. So that was how she made it so they would remember their bar mitzvahs. And then as they got older, I got divorced, and lo and behold, I ended up with custody of 3 little boys. Well, that was not my plan, So she was always there to tell me what to do, because when you're raising 3 little kids and trying to work, it's a very difficult task. And so she was always there with the right answer at the right time to give the right help. So the other thing that she did for each of my kids with me was, again, I was single. Every kid went to college. Well, now, who takes your kids to college? So my mother and I, who was first? Ross was first. So he was U of I. Well, that was her alma mater. So that was no problem. She loved that one. And then Sean was Southern, so that's a 6-hour ride there and a 6-hour ride back. And she helped me take every kid to Southern and bring them back, And then Trent was Iowa. And so again, and when I say she didn't just do the driving, she bought everything. So, you need beds, you need towels, you need sheets. So that was kind of her involvement. So then, as my children get older, my oldest son, Ross, gets married, marries Danielle, who's become a part of the family, and this is all her doing with the pictures here and the rolling montage there. And he has 2 kids, and she didn't refer to them by their first name. She always said, my Maya, my Eli. So there are some of our relatives that are watching from North Carolina. So I asked my grandson Eli if he would come up here and just wave. So if you want to, you could see all of our relatives out there. So this is my grandson Eli, and he's here with his dad. Just wave. I don't know where the cameras are, but so this is Eli. So if you're at my house and you see Eli and he's not doing much, ask him to play chess. And he's merciless. And he's also got game. So not only is he taunting you a little bit, so I won't even play with him anymore. I mean, the first time I played with him, I gave up. I had taken one of his pieces off the board. He had 9 of mine or 8 of mine already. And I flipped my thing down and he said, what does that mean? I'm like, I'm done. So when I started this, I talked about the glass house. Well, so this is my mom's life. It's pretty good. I think if you have a life like that, you don't ever have to throw a stone. And she never did. She never said a bad word. She never had a bad thing to say. She never argued with my dad. And so I know everybody's sad that she passed away, but in this case, it's somewhat merciful because 6 weeks ago, she fell and broke her back, if you didn't know this. And she was going to be bedbound and in a diaper forever. And she absolutely, listening to Michelle, listening to, I guess, Perry, but Michelle too, my mom went to the beauty shop every Friday. She got her nails done every Friday. She was not going to let anybody change her diaper or lay in a bed. When she fell and she broke her hip, and we had the first time she fell was in the house, and we had to take the car away. That was, for 10 years, she yelled at Perry and I, how could you take the car away? How could you take the car away? But she really had a great life. Sean, my middle son, kind of summed it up this way. So she lived 92 years, And the last 6 weeks, she was miserable. That's a pretty good life. I think we would all like that. And that's why I say, if you live in a glass house, you don't have a reason to throw a stone. Thank you.
Neil, thank you very much. And by the way, I've trained probably a couple thousand kids to prepare for B'nai Mitzvah, and everyone struggles a little bit, but they all get through it. I'm sure all you guys got through it. I'm just going to get excuse me. I want to say first that in preparing for this, we talked individually. We didn't talk as a group, and many times when someone has multiple children, you get 3 or 4 different versions of who that person was. I got one version, and the version that you heard from Perry and from Neil of who Esther was. It's wonderful to see children who love their parents. And we'd say, common sense would say, everybody loves their parents. Well, there are degrees. And some people don't love their parents. And some people don't love their children. And I think it was when Neil and I were talking, we said, the greatest gift you can get as a child, more than money, more than education, more than anything material, is the love and attention of your parents. And you all got that great gift from Esther. She was born in 1932 in Chicago. She had no siblings, as was said, so she wanted to have a big family, that big family that she never had as a kid. She went to the University of Illinois, studied accounting at a time when many women were not even at college. And she also took science courses. And I'm told that when she was in science class, the professor would say, if Esther wasn't here, I'd tell a dirty joke today. Such were the times back then. Today you can tell a dirty joke in front of everyone, but such was the custom in those days. But it was rare to have women in those kinds of courses. She, as was said, she was at U of I, but she met Larry during a Hanukkah dance, and she immediately came back here, and she finished at Roosevelt University. She finished her education. She was happy to be a mom, had 4 children. She was a painter, painting in oils, by and large, and she did something every week. It's always said that whatever art you pursue, you can think about it, you can dream about it, but what separates those who think and dream about it from those who actually do it is actually putting color to canvas or pen to paper or whatever you're doing, to actually doing it consistently, and that's what she did. Beautiful work. She loved her going out with her girlfriends of many years for lunch. Every Friday, as was said, she would have her hair and nails done. She loved to shop, loved clothes. She loved the cashmere sweater sets, jewelry from Neiman Marcus, of course. She was a champion shopper. She had what the Italians would call sprezzatura, right? To put your best foot forward. She was an incredible cook, as was said. Monday night dinners, either you'd have chicken or shrimp creole or whatever anyone requested. It was their birthday, of course, they got exactly what they wanted with the Deerfield Bakery cake at the end. She traveled, and she, as was said, she would prepare everything, pack everybody, and have everyone ready to go. She was kind to everybody. Everybody is doing the best they can. Michelle went to the University of Arizona, and Esther would come out and visit, go to the copper mines. Of course, she took out everyone to college and the grandchildren to college when they were first getting started. She practiced driving. She was very independent. She practiced driving much before she actually went to take the test to get her license, because she wanted to do it perfectly. She was, as I said, a great student. She was in the first row, the first seat in high school. She was very modest. Larry had a photography business, and Esther would help with that, with the billing. She was always working on a painting. She went to shul on the high holidays, went to synagogue on the high holidays every year. It was very, very important to her. It wasn't as important. She was at Northwest Suburban Congregation, which is not far from where I lived. It used to be in Morton Grove. And it wasn't as important to Larry, but because it was important to Esther, it was important to him. And he made sure that he always accompanied her there. I have written here always, again, everyone tries to be the best that they can be. She wanted to be a good mom. That's what she aspired to be. And she did everything she could to be a great mom. She had 4 kids. Her life was in service to her family. There's a verse from Proverbs 31, called Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil Miyimsa, a woman of valor who can find her price is far above rubies. Some modern Jewish women take exception to these verses, saying, well, that a woman should be in the home, that's all it is. I am a progressive Jew, and I actually find this verse very comforting, that if someone chooses to be in the home, if someone is put down and kept there because they want to do something else, that's a different story. But for many of us of our generation, our moms were the foundation of our home. Our fathers were working. Today, of course, some women do both. They're in the home and they're working. Not many are just at home. Some men manage the home, but managing the home is a big job. Going to work is easy. Managing the home is, and in the Proverbs, in Eshet Chayil, it says, her lamp is never extinguished at night, right? If you're at home and a couple of kids are sick or something needs to be done, you don't clock out, right? You're up, you're there, you're doing for them. And as was told to me, Esther's life was devoted to her family. She was an Eshet Chayil, and she can be proud, and you can be proud of her for that. I loved her phrase that everyone's trying to do their best, be the best that they are. They're trying to do the best they can. And it's true, and people achieve that to varying degrees, and we could say some people are lazier than others, but they're trying their best. And I think if what I take away from Esther's life, and what I'll use when I exit this door, is not to be so judgmental, right? Everyone's trying to do the best they can, and to give people a little bit of a break. We may want to be judgmental, we may want to be impatient, maybe we could do it better. Just to remember, they're doing the best they can. Instead of chastising them, be like Esther and give them help, give them advice, be of support. So go do that today to someone you know, someone in your family, someone who may be a coworker, someone you may even not know and see on the street who needs help. Who knows? Just know that they're trying to do the best they can. So Zichrona Livracha, may Esther's memory always be for a blessing. So rest in peace, Esther. Rest in peace. And I'll ask you, as you're able, to please stand for Kamale Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim, Hametzeh Minochan Nechonat Achat Kanfei HaShchina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Tehorim, Kezohar Akiyam Mazirim, Et Nishmat Esther Good, Shehalcha Le'olamo. Ana Balarachamim Hastirecha Beseter Kanfecha Le'olamim, Utzeror Bitzra Lachayim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalato ותנוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. God, filled with compassion, whose loving presence ever surrounds us, bring final rest to the soul of Esther Good, who has returned to her source. May the memory of her life shine forth like the brilliance of the skies above, as it brightens our own lives even now. May you, who are the source of all compassion, shelter her beneath the protection of your wings and bind her soul among the living, that she may rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated.
Friends, this concludes the services here in the chapel. The interment and burial services will take place at Zion Garden Cemetery in Chicago. For those of you traveling with us to the cemetery and the funeral procession, please do keep the following safety precautions in mind. Please make sure that your bright headlights and your four-way hazard flashes are on at all times. Please be sure to obtain an orange funeral safety sticker for your windshield, and we will be providing several of the cars in the procession with a magnetic orange flag to be placed on top of your car. Please travel as close as safety permits to the car in front of you to avoid any gaps in our procession. For your own safety and security, I would suggest not speaking or texting while driving to the cemetery in the funeral procession. As we make our way through the various intersections, if the car in front of you goes through the intersection, please do proceed with extreme caution. Feel free to use your horn liberally and make every effort to follow the car in front of you. We will also have a car at the rear of the procession to try to help facilitate us getting from here to the cemetery in a timely, safe, and orderly fashion. Following the interment, the family will be together at the Good residence at 1987 Wilshire Court in Buffalo Grove, and they'll be together today as they return from the cemetery until 8 p.m., and Monday, tomorrow, from 5 until 9 p.m. The family has also requested any memorial contributions may be made to the charity of your choice, and that information, as well as information and contact information for the Shiva coordinator, is available in the service folder that you should have received when you came into the chapel today. If you did not receive one, we do have those for you as you leave. And for those of you joining us online, that information is also available on our website. The following individuals have been asked to serve as pallbearers: Ross Good, Sean Good, Trent Good, Nick Osborne, and Dr. Stephen Arkin. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise and stand in place as we escort the casket, the cantor, and the family from the chapel. And pallbearers, please come forward to my left.